Something's popping off with Roquan Smith that is fascinating, and I do believe that the players are not going to be happy about it. Due to Roquan Smith not having an agent and representing himself, he has asked for a trade. So now how will other teams be able to contact him? How will he be able to reach out to other teams? Allegedly, the NFL has sent out a memo to everybody around the NFL stating that the NFL Management Council sent a memo to clubs warning them that a person contacting clubs about trading for Bears linebacker Roquan Smith isn't a certified agent, and that any contact with a player under contract or his agent without direct written permission is tampering, per source. So I guess Roquan will just have to go to agents of general managers. Is that how he'll have to make this happen? Because agents obviously do all the convos with other agents, and then they're able to, behind the scenes, get something set up. The tampering that happens all the time, especially here in Indianapolis at the Combine, takes place between agents, I guess. So it's a third-party, independent party that you could kind of pawn off. Now that Roquan's representing himself, maybe he's having a friend call around the team saying, hey, would you like to do this or not? And the NFL is being very strict and stern, saying anybody talking to Roquan is doing what Stephen Ross was doing. Might as well just be a fucking asshole and try to steal from other teams. I would like to say this is bullshit.
Yeah.
How's Roquan supposed to know any teams that are available? Oh, you have to have an agent, is what the NFL is saying. You have to lose 3% of your contract. You have to be associated with somebody that has been okayed by the NFLPA. I don't like this at all, but I guess this is something that has to happen for the next steps to take place in how they'll settle these types of situations in the future. Jordan Schultz will join us in about a couple minutes. I guess he has an inside track on this entire story.
Yeah, like would Roquan have to go to the GM and say, hey, these are 5 or 10 teams that I would want to go to, and then the GM would have to tell whichever teams they're comfortable with trading that they can reach out? Would that be the requesting permission? Because obviously if he says like the Packers.
So this is a power play to tell him you're not allowed to represent yourself.
Yeah.
And that's how the players should be taking this, because there should be different rules for if an agent is there or if the player's there. That rule hasn't been put in though. So these are the types of things that have to take place for change to take place. Sounds like there hasn't been any really benefiting conversation about him being traded, it sounds like.
No.
I don't know.
Well, this screws him over
completely.
Yeah, there's no way that he's going to be able to seek a trade then. If they haven't done it yet and he can't really do anything on his own volition, then how does anything get done? Because it seems like they're okay with just standing pat and being like, oh, okay, well.
And Ryan Poles, who's never general managed anything yet, this is his first year. We assume he'll do well. We assume Eberflus will do well because here in Indianapolis, he fucking crushed it. But Ryan Poles came out and said, Roquan representing himself is making it difficult. You ain't done shit, Ryan Poles. So it might be difficult for everybody, but I like the Roquan's taking the initiative. I guess this is the drawback, though, not having any connects around so you can dance around the tampering rule. I guess that is what the big drawback is here.
Yeah, but like if he like tweaks his knee in practice or something, and then would that give him more leeway because then he wouldn't be practicing or anything, and then it'd be before the season?
So what's he got to do? He's got to we're still wondering how he can conversates with anybody from any other team.
Yeah, like if he's not playing, I'm saying, would that like benefit?
And any agent that says, hey, I'll do it for you, they're going to take a percentage. That's what agents do. They literally are a massive part of piecing people together. The networking angle of agencies are a big deal too. So I assume that Roquan will be forced into dealing with an agent. He'll be forced to do this. What you say, Zito? You can speak, yeah.
The person that's been helping him is considered an advisor. That's like what he's been calling him, the guy.
The advisor?
Yeah, the person that like is helping him.
So the advisor isn't a certified agent, I guess, through the NFL and the NFLPA, because that has become something, because back in the day, there was a bunch of bamboozles. Now, there has been bad agents that have been certified by the NFL and the NFLPA. What constitutes a bad agent? Oh, I don't know. Somebody that exists that if they didn't, nothing would have been different. That is a lot of agents. Hey, you got drafted in this part. This is exactly what your contract's going to read. I'm going to take 3% of that. I'm going to get you no marketing deals or anything, but you should just be pumped that I even got this deal done. You know, somebody had to put the bow on this whole thing. There's a lot of fucking terrible agents out there. And just because people have experience in the business doesn't mean they're good at the business. And there's a lot of rules that protect a lot of bad agents, I think, through the NFLPA. There's great agents out there. Do not get me wrong. I have a lot of respect for a lot of people that do business, but I also lack a lot of respect for a lot of motherfuckers just because they are doing business. I think the NFLPA knows that this has been a problem for a long time. That's why they've instituted certain rules, like you got to get certified to become an agent, so at least they are passing the bar or able to represent people. But this is going to have to be a case that's probably going to change rulings going forward and change rules in the way things are worded going forward, I would assume.
Yeah, because it almost seems like they're saying too, like, well, if he had an agent, who would have been able to maybe soften up how the message was delivered with it. Like, it's almost like they're advocating for, like,
Agents.
he might still be there, even though his agent was going to get him screwed over with this deal that he clearly doesn't like.
Yeah, and the deal was a bad deal that was presented
Right.
to him. And he said no. By the way, good business for him to say no to a deal that was backloaded with not a lot of guarantees. That sounds like a bad deal. They probably tried to take advantage of him. Just like this situation seems to be taking place right now. Roquan Smith, representing himself, has an advisor who's not NFLPA certified. So he has somebody reaching out to teams. The NFL Management Council has sent an email to everybody letting them know that they cannot talk directly to a player who's under contract somewhere else. Seems to be a little bit of a pickle. How will the NFL handle it? I would like to know when you think they're going to change that rule for Roquan to be able to do his own business.
I could see that. I could see that in a year.
I think so too.
Because when that was collectively bargained, this wasn't something that was happening. Guys weren't representing themselves, not at this rate. Every year we see more and more high profile, and that's what it takes, not just mid and low level guys. If you have high profile, all pro caliber players, Bobby, Orlando, Roquan representing themselves, this is how it gets done. So I do think it'll happen.
Sherman did as well a couple years back, and he was roasted for it, and he hit every incentive and got paid.
Humphreys did it in Arizona. DJ Humphreys.
Yeah, I think D-Hop did as well, right? Hopkins did.
D-Hop did his. So you're seeing it more and more. I think it's become pretty prominent.
Schultz, I don't want to dive too deep into a super zoomed out convo about this, but as we get more and more entrepreneurial, which I think we are with the internet and social media and this modern generation basically being business people very early, seeing other people on the internet have merch stores and content and basically figuring out business at a much younger age than ever in the history of humans, by the way. It feels like this is going to have to be something, because right now I'm thinking to myself, and I am somebody that represented myself through my own business and former NFL guy who's always going to side with the NFL players over anybody else, just because I think, I see it for a different. He's getting fucked right now. I think Roquan's getting fucked right now. Because if he was able to talk to a team that needed him, let's say it's the Chargers, I didn't even know that was potentially a team. You told us that. And Tom Telesco gets on a thing. He says, we'll give you a first and we'll give you this.
Yeah.
And this new deal's happening. That deal's probably likely to take place with Poles, who's like, okay, we can move on. But now they won't even get to hear those, right? Because nobody can really reach out and.
If we just play the alternative button here, and let's say Roquan Smith is represented by whoever agent you want to pick, you can have Tom Telesco call on that agent, Pat, and say, we want to get him moved here. We want to get it done. What will it take? Or what do you think about Roquan signing here long term? Or here's the fit. And you can start to have these conversations to sell the player and the agent, and then the agent can now work his magic or her magic to sell it to the Bears. And you can start to have this synergy that you're just not going to have if the teams are not able to reach out to Roquan or an agent. It's just the bottom line. It's how business gets done in the NFL. So,
how do they fix that? I don't know how they fix that. Honestly, I guess the player would have to deem that he's representing himself, and he has the ability then to have, he gets, how do you even?
Right. So basically, you're saying beforehand he could set the precedent and say, I'm representing myself. Here's how it's going to work. Okay. Yeah.
And they get a different set of rules.
Let me tell you this. This is the benefit of representing yourself if you're a player, not in this situation, but when Bobby signed with the Rams, what he did beforehand, I was with him that whole week. You remember
Bobby Wagner,
how he
so we're talking about.
Unceremoniously got released by the Seahawks. It wasn't a great situation. They kind of knew they screwed up. But what he did was, as soon as he was released, since he already knew he was going to represent himself, he just reached out to every single NFL team and said, I'm representing myself. If you're interested in me, reach out. And he put his email there, and that's how it was handled. So that's how Les Snead reached out to Bobby Wagner through email. And ultimately, or maybe it was eventually text, but ultimately that's how that got done. And that's how he felt like, I can represent myself. I don't need an agent. That's what if we had that with Roquan, it'd be great. But because He's currently employed by the Bears. We don't.
That's fascinating. I assume rules will be changed, and then guys, if they're representing themselves, will have to go through probably classes and sessions on what they're allowed to do, what they're not allowed to do, how often said email that has to be probably NFL, regulated that they're allowed to like there will some big brain will figure this out, but this is a key point.
Problem.
I think this is a key point here. The Roquan Smith situation is a key point that could potentially change things in the future.